Hi everybody, my name is Luisa and I'm a postdoctoral researcher working for the Action on Research Culture team. Lara and I are going to co-present, so I'm just going to do the first few slides and then I'll pass over to her. But yeah, I just wanted to start by giving you a bit of an overview on who we are and what we do. So we're a Research on Research group. We are based at the Old Schools and the Research Strategy Office, which is a bit of a weird space because it's kind of not within a department, but it straddles sort of the professional services and the academic services. So it's a really useful space for us to be in. Within our group, we're currently working on 3 different projects. The one we're going to talk to you about today is the ARC project, but we're also working on a new grant that's about assessing structure and size and research outputs of different research groups. And then also very recently and hot off the press about inclusivity and grant funding as well. So within the ARC project, there are 3 different strands that we work on. The first is around narrative CVs and postdoc recruitment, so I'm going to talk very briefly about that. The second is around looking at professional emotions and expectations. So this is trying to get into the roots of some of the supervisor relationships and how we navigate those to improve them. And then the third is around touching on precarity and looking at job preference and job redeployment. So we're going to give you a whistle-stop tour of each of these. Whilst these might all look slightly different in terms of their content, all of them focus on early career researchers. We use mixed methods in all of them, so most of them have a quant and a qual method that tie together, which is really interesting. And then they're all rooted in trying to make sure that we use the data to move towards something intervention linked and something that can change practice and actually change things on the ground. So just to give you a very brief overview of the first study, this is about trying to understand if and how narrative CVs have an effect on shortlisting postdocs in postdoc recruitment. So we're not focused on the funding. So narrative CVs, I'm sure you've come across them by the UKRI, are often used to assess funding proposals. We're looking at if this narrative CV affects how postdocs are recruited and if that has an effect in terms of the experience for both the recruiter and the applicant. So we use a form of the narrative CV template that's based on UKRI and the R4I format, which looks a bit like this. It differs from a standard CV because it's got these sort of broader questions which try to really get sort of a more holistic view of the applicant. And we're doing this on live recruitments. So this is Cambridge focused, and we're particularly focusing on recruitments that are recruiting postdoc level. And it's basically what we do is we speak to a PI who signs up, who is recruiting a postdoc, and then the applications happen, we get them back, we split out the standard applications with the narrative applications, we get the panel members to rank based on that set of applications that they've got. They then get the full pack and then they re-rank. So that's then followed up by some qualitative interviews to understand the experience of both the applicant and the panel members, but also the quant stuff to understand if that ranking process changes. I'm going to pause there and give over to Lara.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, and also from my side, welcome. And it's really good to see so many people interested in research culture, so that's amazing. I will talk about the study 2 and study 3 that we're running. And first of all, study 2. So in this work, we look at professional emotions and expectations in the PI postdoc relationship. And actually, part of our work try to provide a platform for the success stories becoming public. So we conducted a research culture celebration last year where we invited group members to nominate either their research group or their PI or like group leader. So we have a lot of data actually on good examples of excellent research culture at the university. We also distributed a survey on more problematic experiences. So we invited researchers to write letters to either their previous researcher self, to their PI, to their fellow group members. We invited people to write job descriptions, etc., to also get at the more problematic aspects of being a researcher at the university. So now we sit on this very, very rich set of data, right? And what we're currently doing is we're analyzing it from two perspectives, so kind of using two different qualitative frameworks. One is an expectations framework. So what kind of dimensions of expectations can we think of? For example, expectations of the self, of others, of your job role, etc., but also of the wider system. And we want to see where expectations align and where they misalign. Based on that data, we're currently developing workshops to help align expectations. And what we're doing there is we're supporting groups in developing their own team handbooks, lab manuals, whatever you want to call it. So a document that codifies your approach to research culture and collaboration within your group. So this is one example of how we move from data to intervention. Yeah? So we have this expectations framework and then our workshop that supports groups in developing their team handbook. The other lens we're adopting is an emotion theoretical lens. So my background is in psychology, so I'm really interested in the more depth analysis of what's going on psychologically in individuals. And both Lisa and I, we're analyzing our data from an emotion theoretical perspective. So we look at different mentions of emotions in the survey data, but also in the interviews we conducted with participants of both the more like problematic survey data and the research culture celebration survey. And yeah, so we're analyzing mentions of emotions and how they relate to expectations, but also to themes more broadly. For example, an example of a positive emotion would be joy. So a lot of researchers actually report joy in their work, but at the same time frustration, for example, with the publication system or whatever, right? Just giving examples here. Based on that, we're developing creative nonfiction materials. So our idea here is to use the qualitative data we have and based on that construct new material that in a more like immersive, engaging way communicates our findings. So that's quite a novel approach. We're currently in the midst of designing those pieces and we'll work with them in the workshops. So yeah. And the third study, and I know this is a lot, right? And this is just a really, really broad overview of what we're doing. So if you have any questions to specific studies, go ahead after our presentation. But the third one is looking at precarity in research careers. And I think I see a lot of faces here that of like early career researchers. So a lot of you may be very familiar with this problem of fixed-term contracts. And our project adopts kind of a multi-layer approach because we think that precarity is not only something on the individual level, but more broadly. So we conduct a choice experiment that will help us get an idea of the trade-offs that researchers are willing to make when making job choices, like contract length versus academic freedom. We interview PIs on their view of redeployment, whether it's a useful solution to precarity for them. We also look at the institutional perspective to see how much jobs actually overlap. Is it actually possible to redeploy individuals between posts? Are there enough jobs out there that are similar enough, etc.? And all of this will feed back into policy making around redeployment and precarity. So yeah, I would say that's it. Hopefully this was not too overwhelming. And yeah, again, thank you for your interest.